This is Dan from Headmania, and today, finally, we're gonna talk about ZMF Calderas. I'm saying finally because I've been very curious about listening to these headphones for a while now. I did have the chance to listen to them at the high-end audio show in München, where I also met Zach, and I was impressed by all of the ZMF headphones by listening to the audio show itself. But I wanted to hear them at home, to have more time to spend with them, and to make a proper impression about the headphones. So here we are. So thank you, Zach, for offering this review in it for to Headmania, so we can test it out. As you can see, the headphone looks amazing, right? And this is an interesting thing. I mean, I met Zach in München, as I told you, and I think that he's a great guy. I mean, he seems like a very passionate guy. And I met a few in this industry. He's one of those guys who can actually see the passion in the first few sentences about audio and his products in general. And I have to say that this is very apparent when you look at his products, because his passion is it's transmitted into his products, and Caldera is no exception for that. And it basically, I love how it looks. It has a very nice build quality. It is of course quite apparent. It is a manual craft work, and the um, wood, as you can see here, it's red wood. It looks amazing. I mean, the level of finish here and how it's integrated with the rest of the headphones, it looks really good. Also, the headband, besides the fact that it has a fine touch to it, I would say that it's really comfortable. Um, in this double headband here, I have the feeling that from my experience, brings a lot more comfort to the table. And I've been actually listening to the headphones in sessions that took hours in one session, and I never felt any pressure on my head. Now, please again check the review for more details because I'm gonna have measurements there. I'm gonna have pictures. I'm gonna have comparisons with other headphones, and you can get more details in general from the written review itself. Now, going back, and I'm gonna try to to keep this review short. Uh, what I like about these headphones in terms of sound. Well, first of all, it's related to the sound signature. And for me, apparently, it's very important that after one degree of technicalities, the sound signature is more important than any other part of the sound. And I think that, at least from my taste, Zach did a great job, or or at least managed to fit my taste perfectly. And you can see in the ZMF description that he basically, after a lot of tries, he decided to focus on the region between 1 and 3 kilohertz, and I think that is a perfect fit to for me as well. Because in general, for example, I hate headphones that have an elevated um, uh, frequency range after 3 or 4 kilohertz. So in between 3 and 4, for me, it's not. I mean, I consider them shouty. Yes, of course, at the beginning they sound like they bring more detail. They're a little bit more airy. They have some bite there, but for long listening terms sessions, I mean, that any headphones that have that elevated, I don't like. So well, not like is a strong term, but I, let's say, not my first preference. And this is not the case with Calderas. And I think that they're one of the most fun and euphonic headphones that I've ever heard. Um, if you have been a fan of initial Odyssey sound, you know that in the last with the last flagship they kind of changed their sound philosophy. And basically, I think that Caldera is kind of the from my perspective, is the Audisi improved sound that I wanted and never got, right? Because and of course, it has its own signature, and it is an amazing headphone. But just as a, let's say, funny comparison. Um, and what I love about them, and of course, when you put them in your head, is the fact that the soundstage is very apparent from the beginning because it sounds very natural. How every instrument falls into place. It's a very deep soundstage, right? You can place any instrument with precision there, and also I like how how every instrument and voice comes into a place in a very natural manner. It's one of the most natural and holographic sound stages I've ever heard. It's an the vocals are amazing because they have a very present tonality, and I mean, it's also the fact that the lower mid range and actually the mid range in general is very present. You don't have dips, and especially in the between 1 and 3 kilohertz, as Zach mentioned, it's you have a kind of quite a linear mid range over there, and that's very apparent because you don't if you have full voices, you have a very present natural tonality vocals, and what I love is that basically the vocals are very well centered into the stage, and besides that, the instruments basically fall around them, the vocals, in a very natural manner, right? Um, and you don't have any instrument overshadowing the voice. Like it's a very interesting, very interesting sound signature, and the performance on this from this perspective is something that I appreciate a lot. And now to the next part is the fact is that if you go beyond soundstage, the bass is something that hits you, right? And the kind of it's not necessarily a metaphor; it's also quite literally it hits you. It's a very strong bass. The punch is strong. But what I love about it is the control and the sustained decay, meaning that the control is very detailed, and it offers a lot of information in that region. Basically, this is one of the most fun and one of the best basses I've heard in headphones in general. Um, and Besides that, if you go to the mid range is one of the most consistent mid ranges I've heard. This is where also the magic happens because the lower mid range is very present. It has a lot of textures and details, but also the mid and upper mid range is quite linear, and you don't have like dips that changes the tonality there of vocals or instruments. So basically, you have the textures of instruments and vocals and everything is really natural and quite detailed in that department as well. And I would say this is one of the best features of this headphone, the mid-range and of course also the bass. If you go to the treble region, I would say that in general these headphones you can categorize them a bit into the darker side. I mean, it's not dark in a meaning that you don't have detail, right? They do have a lot of air and presence in the treble region, but not nothing. I mean, I have no pick there, not no harshness whatsoever, and also lacks a bit of the bite in the treble region, let's say. But that's why it integrates amazingly well with the rest of the frequency, and why it's a very good partner for very long listening sessions. Now, if you go to the speed or details of these headphones, yes, it's a detailed headphone. I mean, I don't think I'm missing anything here in terms of details. Yes, I've heard a bit more detailed headphones, but the overall achievement of how everything is put together, I say is the best thing about Calderas, right? Um, the attack of these headphones is also strong. I heard a bit more, I mean, stronger attacks in other headphones, but it is strong in this one as well. Let's say that with other headphones, I've had the feeling that the attack has a bit more punch, like not punch, but edge, right? And this is a bit more, it compensates with the weight it brings in. And if you have, like, if you think about the impulse, if it's mass multiplied by speed, the mass is big, right? So it compensates with the mass. It hits you. It hits you very well. Let's say, for example, if you have other headphones that hit directly with the punch, this has a strong boxing glove over the punch, right? Uh, and in general, I would say that this is a very energetic headphone. It's fun to listen to, and the dynamics, especially the micro dynamics, are quite amazing. Now, let's go a bit into. Well, I forgot to mention the system, but that I tested it with, but you will find it in the written review. Of course, I used the Rogna Wavelight and the Bliss, and you can find more details there. I actually own the Bliss now, the Bliss KTE. I love it, and it was a good pair for these headphones as well. Um, and I also had a lot of earpads to test. If you now these earpads here are actually the thick cow's hide, which I ended up preferring, um, and I'm gonna mention why. First of all, you can find the measurements of each earpad in the review, but I would say, and I will try to make it brief. Uh, I would say that the ultra pads are kind of the most detailed ones. You kind of lose a bit from the sub bass, but the bass is still fun and quite impressive. It elevates the region between 1 and 3 kilohertz, and that's where you get more detail. Um, the thin pads I was not a big fan of because I had the feeling that you kind of lose some of cohesion of the sound. And keep in mind that the experience with the AirPad will be different based on your ear, when your head size and form actually. So for me, those were kind of. I mean, it was the sound was more forward. You were closer to the sound. However, you lost in terms of, or I lost in terms of cohesion. I mean, it's like when you're very close to a picture and you want to step back to see the whole picture, right? And you will see that even in the measurements, it has the biggest dip in the between 3 and 4 kilohertz. Um, and the stock lambskin was quite good. I mean, I it was I felt like it was better than the thin earpads. It kept the good parts about the headphone. It still had a kind of big dip in the between 3 and 4, but it was a good combination, and I enjoyed the sound. And I did not have the same problem with the sound being too close to me or lack of cohesion, right? Um, and then there's the sweet pads. I think that this was a surprise. I mean, I had the feeling that I would lose more bass or than I did actually, but the bass was actually quite amazing. I mean, it was full, it was fun. You didn't lose too much there, and you had a bit more air. It was more, you get more. Your ears were not get as hot. Um, and you get a little bit more elevated mid-range as well, especially between 1 and 3, and the deep is less between 3 and 4, right? Um, my favorite actually were the thick cowhide because I felt like, well, of course you can see that they're bigger. I felt that the bass was deeper, and you have a fuller experience. It hit a bit better the bass, and I felt like the soundstage was more holographic. Let's say that everything fit better into place for me with these earpads. I mean, the vocal were exactly where it should. The instruments were around the vocal without overshadowing or anything. It was the most holographic experience. You don't get it's kind of in between in terms of it has a good linear response between 1 and 3, but also the not a big deep between 3 and 4. So that's a good experience for me. So yeah, this is with the earpads. If we go in a comparison with other headphones, and I tested it against the Meze Elite, and I'm gonna start with that, and the Hi-Fi 1000 SE. With comparison compared to Mesa Elite, it's kind of interesting because they're more similar than dissimilar, right? Because they're both in the euphonic part of the spectrum when it comes to audiophile high-end headphones. Both are good partners for long listening terms. I would say that in general, this is Caldera has a more cohesive mid-range, or because between 1 and 3 kilohertz it has a lower. I mean, it doesn't have a deep like Elite has in comparison to these. However, Elite has it's a bit more elevated between 3 and 4, not necessarily too much in terms of the peak there. So that alone is kind of that is the biggest difference between the headphones, I would say, in terms of tonality, because um, both are very good in the mid-range sections in general for euphonic music, right? However, this presents a bit more fuller voices and more present because of the the mid-range and the fact that it has a cohesive between it doesn't have a dip between 1 and 3 kilohertz, and Elite has a bit more air and a bit more snap given by the more present region between 3 and 4 kilohertz. In terms of soundstage, this has a deeper soundstage, and the Elite has a wider soundstage. They're both great in this department. However, I would say that Elite sounds a bit bigger, and I would probably attribute that to the driver size as well, because it has a bigger driver. Um, Now, when it comes to the bass, for example, the bass hits very well with both headphones. I would say that Elite has a big, stronger punch, while this has a bit stronger um, decay and control, not decay, control, because it's a very controlled and detailed decay. So uh, I would, I mean, it's a very tough choice here, but I would say that because of the control, um, Caldera are more fun in the bass region, a bit more, right? Now, um, Elite might be a bit faster and more detailed in some regions, but there's not a big difference between them. I would also say that this is even more euphonic than Elite, and it is better for longer listening sessions. And you will see that I also tested this with gaming, with games, and with movies, and I'm gonna explain what happened there. But I would say that you really need to hear the Elite and this, and maybe I offered enough information for you to make up your mind if you don't have the opportunity. But definitely, it's kind of a personal preference situation here between the two. Now let's go to the Hi-Fi Man 1000 SE. And by the way, you can see both of them in the back. Okay. Um, and Hi-Fi Man 1000 SC. Yeah, they are the most detailed between the three of them. It has they're the fastest, and they have the tallest soundstage. And it is an interesting experience because, for example, if you can see the size of these drivers are considerably bigger, and of course, this is also helpful in terms of the size of the sound itself and the fact that it sounds quite tall in the soundstage. Um, and the fact is that it differs a lot from the other two headphones because you will see in the measurements as well, they have much more present treble and also much more present region between 3 and 4.5 kilohertz. And this is somewhere with too much presence for me. Yes, they are very fun, they're engaging, they have a lot of detail, and also the detail comes from the fact that it has an elevated frequency response over there, and that creates more air, that creates more snap in the instrument plaque, for example. It's also quite fast. The driver is quite fast, and the controlled, I would say. Even the bass is amazing with the HE1000 SE. But I don't like, for example, the soundstage. The other two headphones, I like the naturalness of the soundstage much more because it was more cohesive, more natural in terms of placement. This is too tall. The other has a bigger and wide, the bigger depth and width than the 1000 AC, and definitely the Calderas have a bigger width and depth, especially depth. And this is, from my perspective, very important because it creates a more cohesive listening experience. But also the fact that it's not, I mean, the calderas are not shouty. The HE1000 AC, I find them shouty, especially because their peak they have over 3 kilohertz, between 3 and 4 or 5 or something like that. You can check in the review below. But that kind of, they're not I mean, they're good for some, I mean, to get your energy in some songs, and but you listen to them, but they're not good partners for longer listening sessions, unfortunately. So definitely, from my perspective, while the HE1000 AC kind of sometimes has more technicality, let's say, I definitely prefer the calderas. Because they sound more natural, they are more cohesive. Even the bass is more, let's say, present, and they have a good punch. I mean, both basses are good, but I have the extension of the Caldera is better, and it's not overtaken by the upper mid range or or lower treble, because I feel that it's kind of that's shadowed sometimes in the, well, not sometimes, quite a lot with the HG1000 AC. Um, so I would say that hopefully, and you get you get enough information to to understand how both sound. Also, one thing that I noticed about the calderas is the fact that I used to listen to, when I was younger, with to a lot of different types of music like ATB and Scooter. And I found myself that I didn't listen a lot to that type of music in general, and I think that's also because of the fact that they kind of don't sound good with audiophile headphones. And I stumbled upon a few of them, and you'll see which songs I refer to in the written review. But I felt like they were really fun with the calderas. I mean, and they are okay with Beze Elite, and they're quite okay with Elite as well. Uh, Not quite listenable with HE1000 AC, but the most fun were with Caldera. So basically, Caldera was kind of master genre. They kind of sound very good with anything, because they're not harsh, or don't have any peaks that are annoying, at least from my perspective, right? So there you have it. I feel that the Caldera is kind of the. I mean, I really enjoyed the entire review process. I think, by the way, I kind of let it one more than 100 hours to break in, and more than 150. But I think that over 100 it was enough, and I really enjoyed the listening experience. And now I'm going to talk about the fact that I use them a lot with movies and games. And I actually tested with Starfield and other games as well. And I feel that this is the best headphones I have with I have experience with games and movies, because compared to the others, it puts you better into the stage. Like in Starfield, for example, when you go in a crowded city, or when you have people talking around you, the crowd of the sound of the city is much more natural, right? It integrates you very well with the environment. The winds sound more natural. Everything sounds more natural. The engines, when you go on the ship, the engine sounds considerably more natural, more present. The explosions are quite fun as well. So basically, the sound stage is quite holographic, as I said, quite precise in the positioning of the sounds in the game. And also this applies in the movies as well. So this is something, another big plus for the Calderas, if you ask me. So yeah, it was a very fun experience. I would say I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the headphones a lot, and thank you, Zach, for offering this opportunity. And by the way, oh damn it, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I have a very good news for you guys, because we have them in Romania. We have a local distributor in Romania, and Sound from Soundness was the one that uh, uh, facilitated this with Nicolae Gitariu from Rogna. So basically, Nuku talked with Zach, and we have the audioprime.ro. We have the ZMF headphones brought into Romania. So please check that out. You'll find this at the beginning of the written review. Also, please don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe. It motivates me to write and create more content for you guys. Because as you know, this is only a passion of mine. This is not something I live from, but it's a dear hobby, and I hope that I bring some value to you. And see you in the next one.